Welcome to Student Athletes Speak Out. How about this venue? This is a pretty nice place to meet, isn't it? So this is one way we get to come in and see the team meeting room. We're just happy that football has allowed us to do that. We're very appreciative. And I want to begin by thanking Kathy Martin, who's an administrative assistant in the athletic director's office, because she's the one who helps us manage everything for this event. And Christy Zachary, who's right here in the front, who's Director of Marketing and Communication in my college, Education and Human Services. I also want to thank Athletic Director Shane Lyons for his support in being here today, and my dean, Gypsy Denzine from my college, for being here with us. In addition, I just want to tell you that I see a lot of people in here who obviously are close to the people on this stage. Whether you're an associate athletic director or an advisor, we're so glad that you're here. I know Sandy Coldement has been with me since we started this, and that would have been spring of 1990. I think you've come to every one of them, haven't you? Very nice. And that's real dedication and loyalty. Also dedicated and loyal, my husband, Billy Atkins, who has to come here, unlike Sandy, all right? Finally, I'd like to thank Associate Athletic Director Mike Fergale and Sports Information and Greg Schock and Chris for recording our speeches today. We're going to put them on our website, which is sayso.wvu.edu. I'm going to talk about that site a little later at the end. But we're live streaming today so that schools all over the state, actually anywhere, can tune in and listen to our speeches. But if they miss it today, they can see it within the next couple of days when we post it. It's our hope that many viewers, not just school children, but adults likewise, will watch this event and listen to these messages that are presented. Now, the first speaker on the invitation is actually not here. And while we miss him, we're glad because he is realizing his dream. He's participating in the Olympic trials for small bore and rifle. Let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about Patrick Sunderman. He's a graduating senior in sport and exercise psychology, and he's on the WVU rifle team. That's a team that has won 18 national championships, and he has participated in 4 of those. He's from Farmington, Minnesota. He was a 3-time rifle state champion as well as a 3-time junior Olympic championship qualifier. And what is impressive about Patrick, and I really hate that you can't meet him today, is that in addition to being a champion, a 7-time All-American, and a member of the Garrett Ford Academic Honor Roll, he's also a member of the West Virginia National Guard. So you can imagine what type of a schedule he has. The title of his speech is What Strengthens Me, and he will present it when he returns to another audience. That being said, we're really ready to begin with the first speech. And this is somebody who's really excited to be here. I am happy that Jake is here. I know there's no place he'd rather be. He is a freshman enrolled in exercise physiology, and he's also a member of the Honors College. At his Marietta, Georgia high school, he was captain of the swim team, named Freshman of the Year, and received the Raider Pride Award. He also graduated with honors, and equally impressive is that he had more than 280 service hours. The title of Jake's speech is Conquering Fear of Failure.
I'd like to thank Jen for coming out and everyone else here to support us. Fear is in everyone. It's in the world's greatest athletes and leaders of our world, and even in me right now. Fear of failure drives us to do unthinkable things, sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. We're conditioned from a young age to believe in fear. When we're young, we reach out into the unknown. Sometimes we succeed, and sometimes we fail. Danger is real. Risk is real. Fear is not real. The late President Franklin D. Roosevelt said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." He was right. Fear is nothing more than a figment of our imagination. How else could fear take so many different forms? All of us create unique fears derived from experience. That's what makes fear so hard to conquer. Nobody knows your fear like you do. For me, college created the fear of failure. It was different in high school because the consequences weren't as severe. For one thing, if I performed poorly, I wasn't at risk of being kicked off the team. Also, I didn't have to be afraid about scholarship. On the other hand, college is scary. You become independent. You start a new life in a new place without your family, maybe without a single person you know, like I did. Being a Division I athlete does not make it any easier. On top of being a student, your sport becomes a job with extra responsibilities. I felt alone while being asked to do so much. Meeting new people was difficult due to the isolation I felt as an athlete. I felt alone while being asked to do so much. This is when the fear of failure started to form. As my D1 athletic career began, I immediately made a name for myself in the worst way possible. To my coaches, I felt I could do no right. The adjustment from high school to college was harder than I expected. I learned that fear is a way of controlling you, if you let it. Fear will suffocate you. I was just trying to survive until the end of my season. I hoped that fear wouldn't completely consume what was left of my college career. At the Big 12 championships, I thought, all I have to do is swim well and all will be forgiven. At least that's what I thought. I had trained for 3 primary events this year. I looked up at the scoreboard in disbelief 3 times. I had swam slower than I previously swam in every event. Atrocious. Horrible for championship swimming. To top off my poor performance, I missed the bus to one of the sessions. I was fearful of what my coach would say and also of the consequences. I felt my meet and college career were a bust. I was sorry for myself. Sorry for failing, which is what I've been scared of the whole time. Luckily for me, my coach gave me one last chance on the final day. He asked me to pace for my teammate Nate, who had just missed his NCAA cut in the 200 IM. It just so happened that my 200 free time lined up with the cut needed to make NCAAs. Now I had a new fear. I wasn't scared for myself. I was scared for Nate because I might pace him wrong. I had completely failed in every aspect this week. I was exhausted. My arms swelled with lactate, and my will to swim was non-existent. I was scared of letting Nate down and lacked confidence in myself. But the race began well, and for the first half, Nate was right by my side. But then he fell off. I was scared for him. However, I knew all he had to do was catch me on the last 50, and I knew he'd get his cut. As the finish was approaching, I knew I was going to beat Nate. I didn't need to look at the scoreboard to know Nate missed his cut. Nate failed. I knew my friend was crushed. I didn't have much to say other than, I'm proud of you. Nate, on the other hand, he showed me nothing but respect. He thanked me for being a great teammate and stepping up to help him. I hopped out of the pool, and my coach was actually happy with me. I noticed that my time was 1:44, exactly what he asked of me. I passed. I didn't fail like I feared. I also earned respect and finished my season on a better note. I finally got to hang out with my parents to explore and create memories while in Texas. For the first time in a long time, I was happy. I'm not going to tell you that you'll always conquer your fears, or that even when you shoot for the stars, everything will be okay. But I will tell you this. You'll never know unless you try. Things do get better when you don't let fear control you. It's like the late baseball Hall of Famer said, never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game.
Jake and I had decided a while back that he didn't want to go first, but he would be second. And so this morning when I saw him, I said, well, I've got some good news and some bad news. Patrick's first, but he's not here. The bad news is you're first. And to his credit, I gave him the opportunity to switch with somebody, but he did it. So I'm proud of him. I think he did a great job. Our next speaker is Rebecca LaFata, who is a sophomore enrolled in business with a minor in communication studies. She has been named to the Dean's List, and she's a Morgantown native, which I love, of course, and a Morgantown High School alum. She was the high school state pole vault champion, and the title of Rebecca's speech is Philippians 4:13.
First, I want to thank the athletic advisors, Mark, Jen, and Sandy for coming, and also my parents and Aaron, our mid-distance coach. I can remember as if it were yesterday, sitting in the blistering stands of Lathrop Field in Charleston, West Virginia. It was 2009, and I was cheering on my oldest brother as he pole vaulted for Morgantown High School. Up until that point, I really wasn't interested. However, when I saw the rapport he had with his coach, when I heard the support from the crowd, and I saw him clear bars, suddenly I knew that's what I wanted. 5 years later, I found myself on the same runway. I knew that all my vigorous training, early morning lifts, and endless miles of running for the past 4 years would soon pay off. This day was so special to me because it was the day of my senior state track meet. I skimmed the crowd just to see so many unfamiliar faces. But once I saw my parents, I felt so relieved having them there. To my right and left, I had the best teammates I could have asked for with their unconditional support. The loudspeaker summoned all pole vaulters to warm up. As my sweaty, shaky hand grabbed my pole, I could feel myself being very nervous, but being anxious as well. As if I didn't have enough emotions to begin with, I was then called to the middle of the field to graduate, because our high school graduation and state track meet happened to be at the same time and day, so all the senior athletes had to come graduate. I was thrilled to be done with high school, but at the same time sad to be closing such a huge chapter in my life. Also, I was nervous for what the future had in store. It was quite a bittersweet day. I knew one thing: because of dedication and hard work, I felt that I could achieve my goal, and that was to be a state champion. As I returned to the pole vault pit, I knew I had to snap back to reality and focus. My name was called there soon after, and I looked over at my coach for the thumbs up. I bounded down the runway, cleared the bar, and threw away my pole. Time was passing, and most of my competitors were missing bars. A few were excelling to the next height. Suddenly, 2 of us remained. My competitor cleared the bar with ease. I did as well. The bar went up another 6 inches. Finally, one jump would determine the state champion. I had to look away during her attempt. When I glanced up, I saw the bar was knocked off the yellow standards. It was my ultimate chance to be the champion. Unfortunately, I had a similar attempt. Therefore, we had to go into a tiebreaker. The first to clear the bar would win the state championship. She missed her first attempt. My stomach was filled with butterflies. I could barely stand to watch. When it was my turn, I couldn't hear the crowd anymore. I blocked everything out. My coach gave me the thumbs up, and the next thing I remember was being 2 feet over the bar. Excitedly, I smiled and thought, I am now a state champion. The rest of the day was filled with hugs from my coaches, teammates, family, and friends. I wanted to win this not only for myself, but for them. My coach said, for the rest of my life, when you pass that stadium, it will always remind you of the champion you are. Nothing and no one can take that from you. Looking back, I feel that I made the right decision to be a student athlete. Making that decision meant I had to put pole vaulting above other opportunities throughout high school. For example, I was the first and last to practice and always in the weight room. Even though I participated in other activities like student council, I still had to fit my sport into my day. I practiced about 2 hours a day and also on weekends. So when some of my non-athlete friends were sleeping in on Saturday, I was there on the runway or in the weight room. I learned that if you put your heart and mind to something, you can accomplish anything. I should also add that I had a pull-up bar in my house that I used every day of senior year. Facing me was a sign that read, I can do all things with Christ who strengthens me, Philippians 4:13. Therefore, I knew I wasn't alone in my goal.
With aspirations of attending law school as well as entering the state political race, so keep that in mind, Chris Nelson is a senior who will graduate in May with a major in political science. From Coal City, West Virginia, he was the high school wrestling team captain for 3 years and was a 3-time state place winner. He was named the team's Iron Mountaineer as a sophomore in 2014 and won the Coaches Award in 2015. Also, he is a member of the Garrett Ford Academic Honor Roll and the Big 12 Commissioner's Honor Roll. Recently, he was named to the Academic All-Big 12 second team. The title of Chris's speech is, "Who Are You?"
I'd like to thank head wrestling coach Sammy Henson for coming today, our team nutritionist Nettie Freshauer, and our team academic advisor Jen Mandeville. I'd also like to thank Shane Lyons and Joe Heskett for coming today as well. Ann is a sophomore in high school. Some may call her the Queen Bee. She has to be the top dog. The only problem is Ann doesn't want to learn anything in school. That's beneath her. And besides, she plans to marry a rich guy someday. So what happens when she fails the test? Well, she may make up an excuse, cry, or lie. Ann does not have good character. John is the best athlete in school. He has no doubt that he will get a college scholarship one day and eventually play professional football. John also thinks that he doesn't have to go to class. So he usually doesn't. However, when he does, he doesn't pay attention, sometimes texts, or takes an occasional nap. John does not have good character. There are numerous definitions of good character and some basic ways to develop it. Let's begin by defining it. What is good character? Some quotations state this: character is how you treat those who can do nothing for you. Character is who you are and what you do when nobody is looking. And President Lincoln said, character is like a tree and reputation like a shadow. The shadow is what we think of it. The tree is the real thing. Second, how do you develop good character? I developed it first from my family and secondly from my coaches. I come from a family of very selfless people. My mother volunteers and often helps others and uses her own money to do so. Now I have to say that she's not really a good cook, so she doesn't cook for others, but she won't hesitate to buy somebody a meal. My grandparents are the same way, as well as my father. My high school wrestling coach is another good example. He will do whatever needs to be done to get wrestling gear and other opportunities for athletes from low-income families. He's also known to have paid for wrestling camps and tournament entry fees for those who could not afford it. Therefore, our team had a lot of respect for him. I'm not surprised that he was awarded the 2016 National Federation of High School Coaches Mid-East Section Coach of the Year for wrestling. Some people, unfortunately, do not have such role models. What happens then? How do you develop it on your own? You can develop good character on your own. One of the first ways to do it is to develop the proper attitude. The world really owes us nothing. It's up to us to be the best people we can be. We must give more than we take as members of society and always do the right things, whether it's showing up to practice on time or just turning a school assignment in on time. Developing the proper attitude involves self-discipline and also self-analysis. That is knowing our strengths and weaknesses. For example, we need to discipline ourselves not to resort to name-calling when in a dispute or in a debate, as we have seen among some of our presidential candidates. We need to capitalize on our strengths and improve on our weaknesses. This brings me to my next point. Another way to develop good character is to learn from our mistakes. We are not perfect. We will make mistakes. Sometimes we instinctively know right from wrong, but we don't listen to our inner voice, our intuition, our gut feeling. When we do make mistakes, we need to own them, no excuses, and learn from them. It has been said that a mistake is only a mistake if you don't learn from it. As a matter of fact, you may learn a great deal about it if you aren't in denial. A third way to develop character is to understand the importance of respect as well as how to demonstrate it. This involves valuing others, including their needs, opinions, and ideas. We should be respectful not only to our parents, teachers, and coaches, but also to our peers and those even younger than us. Sometimes showing respect is as simple as holding the door for someone else, or as complex as devoting all your time to a boring speaker. To summarize, character has many definitions that involve how we treat others and how we present ourselves. Even if we do not have exemplary role models, we can develop it on our own. Character takes guts. Sometimes it's not easy, but it can be your most important asset. After all, it is who we are and it is what we do. And so I conclude by asking, who are you and what will you do?
I'm going to vote for him someday. Amy Cashin participates in both track and cross country and is a junior majoring in sport and exercise psychology. And actually she has 2 minors, one in psychology and one in athletic coaching education. She attended high school at Werribee Secondary College in Australia, where she was captain, we would say president, of the student body for years 7 to 12. She was also captain of her state team for nationals. She also is a member of the Big 12 Commissioner's Honor Roll and the Garrett Ford Academic Honor Roll. She's earned academic all Big 12 first team honors while maintaining a 4.0 GPA. And the title of Amy's speech is Embracing Change.
I'd just like to thank Mark and Sandy, our academic advisors, for coming, and the rest of the academic staff. They've really helped out all the student athletes really get to the student aspect of being an athlete. Also to Samantha and our coach, Erin, as well as Shane Lyons and Joe Heskett and Nettie as well. Walking out of the Pittsburgh airport, an unfamiliar setting hit my eyes. Cars on the wrong side of the street, weird food, and cars that drove themselves. Well, at least that's what I thought, until I realized cars were a wee bit different in America as compared to Australia, and people were actually driving them. These were the first of many changes I would have to get used to on my journey over the next 5 years in America. Change creates the fear of the unknown. Many people are afraid of change because it's so easy to avoid. We like routine, we like familiarity, and it's scary to think it can be gone, just like that. However, embracing change needs to be stressed more. I almost didn't come to America. In fact, when I got my first offer from the University of Tennessee, I threw it out and said no. I was intent on staying in Australia with my coach and family. You may ask why. Well, the answer was simply because I was petrified. I was afraid of change. What if nobody liked me and I had no friends? Would I like training with boys instead of girls? Although that's what I used to do, and I train with girls now. How would I feel about a new coach, a new country, a new culture? How could I leave my coach of 8 years, who was like a grandpa to me and knew me better than anybody else? How could I leave the boys I trained with, those little scallywags, and everybody else at my club? How could I leave my family and friends, the people I love the most? Imagine leaving the people you love the most and not knowing when you'd next see them. Imagine that to see them again, it would involve a 30-hour trip and over $2,000. For me, it wasn't for 16 months. Over 2 years, people sat me down, including many Olympians, telling me that change is important. It creates independence. It creates growth. You experience many things you haven't before. It wasn't until the World Cross Country Championships in Poland, where I experienced a new culture, a new world, new people, that I realized that maybe these people were onto things, and change wasn't so bad. So, here I am 2.5 years later, in America at West Virginia University. I conquered my fear and embraced all the changes that came my way. There were tears, there was confusion, and there were many near-death experiences. New road rules, different way to write the dates, new food, training, even the accents. It was a lot to take in. It was all worth it though. I have grown as a person and am excelling both academically and athletically. I have done things I didn't think was possible, such as making the president's list while maintaining a high GPA. I've competed at nationals, and even though just missing out this year for indoor, I still managed to break a 440 mile, which I was pretty happy with. Amazingly, people seem to like me. I've made friends that will last lifelong no matter which country I live in. I love the girls on my team, and I really enjoy training with them. I have a great relationship with my coach, the rest of the coaching support, and all of the other athletic academic advisors. Change is a positive thing. You may be scared, and that's okay. I was too. In fact, I still am. When I think about graduate school and where I'll live after that, I get anxious. It's all a part of living. But I realize now it's important to experience the world, change things up, meet new people. Otherwise, you're not living life to the fullest. Remember that being hesitant is okay. However, letting the fear of change stop you from trying something new is not okay. As my good friend Elliot said, change is the only way we grow, the only way we get better. When we get stronger, we show a physical change. When we get wiser, we show a personality change. When we get hurt, we scar. It's a change. Coming to WVU was the best decision of my life. My academics have skyrocketed, my running has improved, I've become independent, grown as a well-rounded person, and I've learnt more about the world. Most importantly, I now have a second family and a home away from home, and I wouldn't change any of it for the world.
What I love about Amy is that it doesn't matter why she emails me. It could be a problem, something's wrong with eCampus. She always ends by saying cheers, and for some reason I feel better when she does that. Okay, our last speaker is Zachary Moore, who's a freshman majoring in general studies. He is from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and both Zach and his twin brother Keegan wrestle for WVU. He was the runner-up at the Oklahoma State Championships in 2014, and he won states in 2015. The title of Zach's speech is, "You Just Have to Care."
I'd like to thank my head coach, Sammy Henson, academic advisor, Jim Mandeville, my nutritionist, Nettie, and my friends, and everyone else who came to watch. How many people in the audience have siblings? How many come from large families, for example, 4 or more? I grew up with my twin brother, Keegan Moore, who was also a wrestler at West Virginia University. But we also grew up with 22 foster sisters and 1 brother. My father, Harvey, is a policeman in our hometown, Oklahoma City, and my mom, Kelly, is a teacher, special ed teacher at an elementary school. They are the type of giving role models that every child should look up to. Having parents who foster children changed my outlook on life. It made me and my brother realize how fortunate we were. Some of our friends didn't have parents, so it wasn't unusual for them to come over on the weekends or after school. They weren't used to the loving, stable homes that they were surrounded by at ours. Being involved in foster care opened up my eyes to many new cultures, ethnicities, and personalities. Some were talkative and some were quiet. Some were Asian, some were Hispanic, and some were white. Some were responsible and some were not. One of the most important things I've learned was humility. It was amazing to see someone less fortunate than I was smile and be happy every day. It made me thankful and made me want to help more people outside of my family. We also learned that when helping others, you get the chance to meet new people and make new friends. Sometimes I think back on a time when I was helped in need and the way I felt. I try to give as many people that feeling as possible. As overwhelming as it may be, it is a very rewarding experience. Many of you might be thinking that growing up with numerous children and siblings may be odd. but for me, it was not the case. The first one arrived when we were 4 years old, and he was 6. For whatever reason, we bonded immediately, and he stayed the longest, about 4 years. Fortunately, he returned to his birth family. There were some we bonded with more than others, and that may be because the 22 remaining were all girls. Then we had to get used to Barbies, dresses, and overall drama. One of our favorites was a 4-year-old named Shayla, who came to us when we were 13 years old. It was fun having a little sister who was always smiling and laughing. She stayed for about 2 years. In general, our siblings stayed with us for anywhere from 4 days to 4 years. According to an article from HuffPost Impact, foster youth throughout the country experience high rates of incarceration, substance abuse, and suicide, and are more likely than other youth to experience post-traumatic stress disorder, chronic medical conditions, and depression. Statistics show that in 2011, more than 400,000 youth nationwide were in foster care. 100,000 were waiting to be adopted, and 7,000 entered the system and then left. Foster care parents, mentors, tutors, and advocates have an enormous impact on a child's life, giving kindness and generosity and wisdom that they have accumulated. Whether we are parents, mentors, teachers, or advocates, we can change lives. It takes love, support, generosity, and time. Helping others should be a basic instinct, but as we can see, sometimes it is not. I agree with author Mandy Hale, who says, to make a difference in someone's life, you don't have to be brilliant, rich, beautiful, or perfect. You just have to care. I'd also like to introduce our recruit from Iowa, who's came here for wrestling. His name is Brandon Hayes.
Welcome. Okay, and now if I can get some help up here to lower this screen, I want to end by showing you something. Actually, you all, if you'll move your chairs, maybe stack them to each side, and so that they're not in front of the screen, and you all can have a seat down front. While we're getting that ready, let me talk to you a little bit about this class and one of the things that we have tried to do. As I said earlier, I started teaching this back in the spring of 1990, and I've had anywhere from 4 students to 16 students a semester, just depending on who enrolls in it. Once I first started teaching it, I realized that these students, you can go ahead and get that up there, these students have stories to tell, and I wanted to share them. I don't know what I was thinking initially, just that it would be just another class, but certainly it wasn't that. So one of the things that I developed in early 2000 is a website for the class called Student Athletes Speak Out, and this is what it looks like. I'm going to get out of the middle of it here, but if you see in this area, can you scroll up, can you get that up maybe a little bit? All right, so if you see in this area, we have, for example, character.ownit and bullying is never okay. That semester, around 2012, I had 12 athletes in the Mountaineer, and we developed public service announcements that were about 30 seconds in length, and they were on different topics like humility and character, family, the importance of academics, and actually the students did a great job with that. Bowles Rice Law Firm helped us sponsor it so that we showed them on television before home games, and they're up on the site for anybody to see. The legal consequences of bullying, Kim Coyle, who's in Bowles Rice, was excellent with that, just talking about to actually parents, to teachers, to students. It's ecumenical in that sense of the word. Anybody can benefit from hearing it. So any teacher, any counselor, any parent, you all can go to sayso.wvu.edu and use these character advocates to teach others, especially those younger than we are. If you'd scroll back to the top, I'll show you, can you see across the top, for example, click on volumes 1 and 2, athletes. And this year, I had 2007, 2008, you'll see some names up there that you recommend, or that you'll remember, I'm sorry, Joe Alexander, Alex Ruoff, Liz Rapella, and the different topics that they're talking about. So each one of these is about 6 or 7 minutes in length. If you're working with a student and you want to, for example, talk about reputation, then you can watch Liz's video on reputation and go ahead and click on the teacher's guide under there. Each one has a teacher's guide, And if you just scroll so that they can see it, discussion questions, for example, scenarios, what would you do if, and writing and speaking assignments. So every one of those topics has an accompanying teacher guide. Okay, if we can go back to the top, I want to show you something else, because if you get right up to the top again and go to Speech Video Archive. Now, these aren't all the speeches of all the students, because some of them didn't have good enough quality to get on here. But if you look at this, the first thing that you'll see, and this is where today's event will go. For example, we have fall of 2014, and there are the people who spoke, and there's the full video. Spring of 2015, fall of 2015, and then we'll have spring of 2016. Or you can look by some of the names that you might be interested. If you're interested in adversity, and a lot of our students have talked about adversity throughout the years, you can listen to people like Robert Alexander, some of these names from the past, some of you who are older will remember, Lance Frazier, Devin Ebanks, Noel Devine, J.D. Woods, Franklin Young, who played basketball. If you scroll, you'll see another topic is academics. Canute Curtis talks about that, Garrett Ford Jr., and also advice and attitudes. And here we have people like, again, Joe Alexander, Tavon Austin, Avery Fields, so John Flowers, a lot of names from the past. So and if you scroll one more time, I think there's a fourth one, athletics. The fourth topic is on athletics. Isaiah Bruce, people like, if you remember, Dior Fisher, Jabari Hines, Greg Jones. So this is a site that we add to every semester, and I think that the messages are timeless. I think they're appropriate for any age group, and I just wanted to call your attention to it. And we're live streaming today, as I said, and this is just to remind teachers and counselors and students who are watching that they can take a look at that. So thank you. That being said, we appreciate the fact that you came today. Brady Rourke, I saw you come in earlier, didn't get to thank you. Somebody already thanked Joe. And we just appreciate everybody being here. So if you want to talk to the athletes afterwards, you're welcome to. We're going to take a couple of class pictures, and we're finished. Thank you very much.